YouTube, how's it going? Frogs Angels is back with more NFL content. So what I got today is the best players on each AFC team, the best defensive player on each AFC team. We already did offense for AFC and NFC, so go check those out if you haven't already. This is just obviously my opinion going forward, going into the season, who I think the best player on each of these teams are. Offense, defense, we'll combine them. We'll do the best player on each team. We're going to do breakout player on each team. We still got our top 100 recap videos going. We're going to do position rankings, and we want to get you guys involved with the position rankings. If you were with us during the draft process, we did a fan-voted mock draft. We're going to do something similar. Get your guys' take on who you think the best quarterback is, the number one running back is, number one receiver. So go follow our Twitter. Link is in the description, frogs_angels. We will start using that for polls, and I'll tweet out exact or specific links to bring you to the polls in the near future when we're ready for that. But we'll reveal who the fans, who the viewers think is the top players, along with my rankings once we get there. So plenty planned for you guys. Thanks for everyone's support. But let's get into this. Best players defensively on each AFC team, in my opinion, going forward. Not just based off last year, but it has something to do with it because of what I think their production will be like this year. Let's start with the Bengals. No specific order, I don't think, here. Bengals, Geno Atkins, dominant defensive tackle. I think he's clearly their best player. A player I am looking forward to watch, though, is William Jackson. I think he had a hell of a year last year. That was really his rookie year. The year before was supposed to be his rookie year, but an unfortunate injury leading up to the season. He was a legit corner coming out of college, and he played very well. Nobody's really talking about him a lot. So William Jackson III, definitely got to keep a lookout for. But Geno Atkins, dominant defensive tackle. I think he's the Bengals' best defensive player still. On to the Bills. This is actually a tough one. The Bills got some good players here and there. They had a dominant safety duo. But going forward for the season, possibly their best player last year too, but mainly for this season, I like Tre'Davious White a lot. First-round rookie corner from LSU was pretty dominant this last year. I think underrated too. People just talking about Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore was the best rookie corner, defensive rookie of the year. There should have been some kind of debate or it should have been closer than people thought. Tre'Davious White, not to take away anything from Lattimore, he's definitely very good, but Tre'Davious White played very, very well. And I don't know, to me, he could have been the defensive rookie of the year. I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts on that, if you think it's close even, but it seems like most people around the league don't really think it's close, but Tre'Davious White had a hell of a year. Pass deflections all over the place. He had a lot of tackles, got his hands on the ball, like I said, and he was just a rookie. So going into next year, you just only think he can get better. He can only get better is what you think. A young player coming from LSU, the DBs just seem to work out in the NFL. I like him going forward. Jordan Poyer was highly considered here. I did like his game. He was up there in tackles, did have quite a bit of interceptions. So maybe if this was based on last year alone, I would probably choose Poyer. But I like where Tre'Davious White is heading for the Buffalo Bills. Great pick out of them. The Broncos is next. Pretty obvious one. It's Von Miller. I don't really know if anybody can compete with Von Miller here. An elite defensive player. Brings a lot to the game, to the outside linebacker position. Can anyone compete? Bradley Chubb, maybe in the near future. Bradley Roby, I think, going to get more action. He's going to look better as a legit number one corner there, but it's really Von Miller's defense, and I don't think that's a surprise. To the Browns, I think another pretty obvious one. I went with Myles Garrett. He was the number one pick. I think he was dominant last year when he got the opportunity to play. We've seen 3 sacks in one game. Very impressive, showing signs of what he can do going forward. I think he has a legit chance to be in the top of the league in sacks per season. Not just in the future, just right now, I think. Am I saying he's going to lead the league in sacks? No, but I think he can, and I think he's going to be up there. He's going to be a dominant pass rusher, and I like him in that defense. So I think he's their best defensive player, no doubt about it. On to the Chargers. Now, the Chargers was a very interesting one. You got three. You could say 3 elite players here. Between Casey Hayward, the corner, Joey Bosa, the defensive end, and Melvin Ingram, the defensive end / outside linebacker. Very, very tough. I think most people would choose Joey Bosa, and I don't want to say that he's not. There's no way he's their best player, and I definitely think he's very good, and he's young, and he's going to get better. But I think I've talked about it before. What Melvin Ingram does on the football field is magical, really. He plays two positions, and we talked about this before. He plays the DN and the outside linebacker position. It's not all about stats, and he brings the stats, though, too. He's a dominant player. I mean, this is going to be Joey Bosa's defense going forward, but for this year, I still like Melvin Ingram. He makes his defense better. What he does is very impressive. There's a few guys that can do what he does in the league, but key word is a few guys. So very dominant player, fits this defense perfectly, has to do a lot, does it at a high level. So I chose Melvin Ingram. Could be Joey Bosa. If you told me Joey Bosa, I'm not going to say no. If you said Casey Hayward, I'm not going to say no, because corner is a very, very hard position. But I think between Ingram and Bosa, they're the more dominant players on this defense. But that's impressive that you can have three guys really considered here. To the Chiefs, maybe another tough one. You look at Chris Jones, his potential, his development's been pretty darn good, his progression. Justin Houston's been getting sacks for them. But I went with Eric Berry still. I mean, we didn't get to see him play last year. It's just a dominant safety in this league, can be the best safety. I think we saw, I mean, we'll have to wait to my safety position rankings, but it's pretty obvious. But we saw, I think there was a landslide victory of who the best safety in football was last year. No one was even close. But if Eric Berry is healthy, he can give a challenge for that number one safety spot, even though he's getting up there in age, not super old or anything, but you get my point. Dominant player. They need him desperately. And I can't wait. He's got to be one of my favorite. The Chiefs aren't my team, but Eric Berry's got to be one of my favorite players outside of my team in the league. Very fun to watch. The NFL needs him. We need him on the field, no matter who your team is. So I went with Eric Berry still. To the Colts, got to go with a young guy here. Got to go with Malik Hooker. Unfortunate injury last year, was having a heck of a rookie season. I thought they stole him 2 years ago in the draft, where they got him mid-first round. I think he's a guy that can lead the league in interceptions at any time, and that's pretty impressive for a young guy. Those Ohio State DBs are very impressive. So Malik Hooker takes the award for the Colts' best defensive player, and I think he can be a Pro Bowler if healthy in the near future here. Starting to see some good safeties come out in the NFL draft, which we'd never really got a lot before. So it's fun. It's fun to see these safeties. The Dolphins is next. I went with Cameron Wake, even though maybe he's starting to go on a decline. They got some balance here and there, especially on the D line for the Dolphins D line defensively. So, yeah, I mean, you could look at the DBs too, Rashad Jones. I do like Xavier Howard, but I don't know if he's really competing for the spot. Kiko Alonso, maybe. But I went with Cameron Wake here. I'm looking forward to see some of their D linemen step up. A guy like Charles Harris, I liked a lot going in the draft, but I think Cameron Wake takes it for their best defensive player. The Jags are next. I went with Jalen Ramsey here. Could have went Calais Campbell. Could have went with a couple guys. I do like Telvin Smith. Telvin Smith was very impressive last year, but Jalen Ramsey, maybe the best corner in football, definitely top 3 for sure. I talked about how hard corner is to play. It's so hard, especially matching up against the best receivers in the NFL, one-on-one, man-on-man. I mean, sometimes they're not in man every play, but you get my point. Very hard to do, and at a young age, very impressive. And another thing that people don't realize is if he just decided he wanted to play safety, he'd be one of the top safeties in football too. So just very athletic, very skilled. Jalen Ramsey, he's their best player and best player of the future going forward. But Telvin Smith was just outstanding last year. Same with some of the other players, but I give it to Ramsey. The Jets, I went with Jamal Adams, maybe one of my favorite players from the draft last year. He's number 2 on my big board last draft, right after Myles Garrett. Love his game. He's got everything a safety can do. I mean, doesn't get a ton of interceptions, but he's a lockdown safety. Maybe similar to Derwin James that we saw coming out this year. Similar style of safety, but Jamal Adams is the real deal, and he's going to be their best player for years to come. You could say Leonard Williams here. Maybe you can say Tremaine Johnson. I just went with Jamal Adams going for this year. I think he could be a Pro Bowl player pretty much right now. So very impressive. He's a player I'd love to watch going forward. Can't wait to see him play. To the Patriots, another interesting one. Could have went with a couple of guys here, but I went with Stephon Gilmore, the corner, and I actually, going into last year, they picked him up, the money they gave him, people saying he's one of the top corners. I was having none of that really. He's a good corner. Don't get me wrong at that point. But I think I was wrong. What he does, I mean, he wasn't Jalen Ramsey, he wasn't Casey Hayward, Xavier Rhodes, all those corners. He's not that, but he's definitely up there. What he's asked to do is he's asked to do a lot of man coverage. You see those corners I just named, they don't just play man. Like I said, they don't lock on to the receiver the whole game. Gilmore plays a lot of man. He's asked to do a lot. He's on his own island over there. He's very impressive. He saved some big plays in the playoffs. I mean, there's times where he gets beat. I mean, some of the other guys like Jalen Ramsey, they don't really get beat a lot. But what he's asked to do is very difficult, and he was very impressive doing it. And that was his first year on the Patriots in that defense. So he's going to be even better this year, we think. So Stephon Gilmore, I mean, I knew he was a good corner, but I would say I was wrong on him last year in terms of maybe I underrated him a little bit because I did definitely think he was good, but he was more impressive than me than what I expected is what I should say. So Gilmore gets the best defensive player for the Patriots for me. To the Raiders, it's Khalil Mack. Does that surprise anybody? It really shouldn't. Anybody else that could be considered here? Not really. I'm looking forward to watching Carl Joseph and Obi Melifonwu. Garyon Conley. Some young players to look out for, but it's Khalil Mack. Pretty obvious. To the Ravens, one with C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley may be one of my favorite players outside of my team. Just very fun to watch. A linebacker that brings just every part of the game. He's a freak athlete. I mean, usually these types of their linebackers are just run stuffers and very good at it, which he is. But he's so involved in the pass game, which you just don't see a lot from these types of linebackers. So he takes it for the Ravens, best defensive player in my opinion. Very impressive guy to me. Love watching him play. Steelers is Cam Hayward. I think another pretty obvious one. If Shazier didn't have the unfortunate injury, it wouldn't be so obvious. I do like Stephon Tuitt a lot too. Needs to stay more healthy. Needs to be on the field more. He can be a very dominant player, but it's Cam Hayward. And good question here is, why is his helmet always covering his eyes? It just seems to be always like that, mainly when he's celebrating. Is it like it when he's playing too? It's something I recently noticed. Probably Steelers fans probably been noticing that since day one, but something I just noticed, thought that was interesting. Texans are next. It's J.J. Watt, even though he hasn't been playing much in the recent past. Probably the best defensive player in football if he's healthy. And I still think, even after missing a lot of football, if he's healthy, I still think he's the best defensive player in football, or can be, really, is what I should say. But went with him. Is it Jadeveon Clowney's time, maybe, to take over? They got a pretty good linebacker core, too. Those guys could be considered, but J.J. Watt, so dominant if healthy. Going into the season, he's going to be healthy, so I have to go with J.J. Watt. And the Titans is last. Actually, a pretty tough one for the Titans here. They had all-pro safety and Kevin Byard at the top of the league in interceptions. And an underrated guy. I mean, I wasn't going to choose him, but Wesley Woodyard, I thought, really stood out to me last year. I didn't watch every Titans game, but it seemed to me like he had some very big-time stops. He was a very good impact, big impact. It seemed like every time there was a big third down, he would get the tackle, maybe towards the sideline. So was somewhat considered. But even though Byard may be the guy of the future here, I still go with Jarrell Casey. Just a dominant D lineman in a 3-4. Just dominant in the run game, dominant in the pass game. And you don't, from this size of a guy, and the other ones around the league, there's very few of them that are that dominant in both categories of the game. 4-3 defensive ends is a different story, but this is a bigger guy that's playing 3-4 D end. You expect him to be that dominant in the run, but he brings a lot of pressure to the quarterback, and he's been doing it for how many years, Pro Bowl level. So I went with Jarrell Casey, but Kevin Byard, another guy that I considered, I suppose, but maybe Harold Landry in the future. Not quite yet, obviously. Didn't play a snap, but I was very high on him. Does need some developing in the run game, but maybe a guy to look out for. But that'll do it for the AFC best players defensively. We'll do the NFC one. It'll be tomorrow. Maybe you're watching that one first, though. I just appreciate you watching. Thanks for everyone's support. Our goal is 10K subscribers. We need your help to get there. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It'll be much appreciated. Again, follow our Twitter, link in the description. We'll be doing polls on there. We want to get you guys involved on who you think the best player is at each position. That'll be revealed with my top 10s at each positions in the near future. We got NFL coverage all year round. We started doing some NBA coverage as well. A lot of interesting topics. So we got you covered in the world of sports. We appreciate you guys watching. That'll do it for this one. Goodbye.